August 2nd, 2014. Update on what we got going on around the house here. Nothing really of note with the apples and the raspberries and blackberries. We did, if you saw the last video, this was mainly grass in here. I'm starting to move this mulch, and then I'll keep a lot of this grass in this area, but I'm going to kind of hook all that in to mulch and then put other stuff in here and kind of make like a mini little orchard in this area with all sorts of grafted and dwarf and semi-dwarf varieties that I kind of aggressively prune to give a ton of fruit in not very much space. Alright, so yeah, everything's looking pretty healthy. We got some big rains in July, and I'm sure that's helped. It didn't really turn anything too amazing. This raspberry was looking pretty weak last time. It's not looking great, but it's at least gonna make it to the fall and hopefully survive the winter. This one did die. I think that was a Latham. This Ann died. This Ann survived. This Black Magic Blackberry Primocane variety that sets on fruit twice a year did well. We got one little cluster of blackberries right there that we harvested, and it looks like we'll get a few little fall flowers that'll turn into blackberries as well. This is probably the best one if it does really well. I've been reading on several different ways to propagate blackberries from cuttings, and I'll just cut different sections off and do those methods, and if it looks like it'll do well, then I'll kind of start to make a row here. I'll get rid of these eventually. They're still pretty when they flower in the spring, but they don't make food, so eventually they will go. This blackberry, kind of bouncing back. It's a standard variety, not a primocane, so it should only set fruit once a year, but I don't think it's going to do it this year. Onions and garlic, neither of them did that great, but I harvested them, and I'll probably do this bed again. I planted some cowpea and peas in here just for kind of a cover crop. Both of those are nitrogen fixers, so they'll accumulate nitrogen from the atmosphere and then fix it into the soil. Hopefully that'll help out the garlic and onions growing there next year. I haven't read a whole lot about any complications with growing onions and garlic in the same bed year after year, so hopefully they don't have any problems, and next year I'll have a better harvest. This raspberry, or blackberry, sorry, doing the same thing. It looking a little better, but it really hasn't grown a whole lot since May. Same with all three of these. I'm guessing this might just be too shady of an area, which I kind of assumed was going to happen, but before I started hacking out trees, I wanted to at least try it. And so anyways, yeah, I'm not sure which trees I'll keep and which I won't, but probably maybe trim one down next year and see what happens there. Some of the squash kind of suffers the same fate. I just don't think it got near enough sun in here, plus this is ground that was, prior to this year, was just crappy old dirt that never really grew anything. Put down the wood mulch, and maybe another year of composting, and then of the wood mulch composting rather, and then throwing in some better soil with those. I can kind of get, my idea, or my plan was to kind of get some kind of, viney plant like a squash to kind of just creep in here and set up vines all through this place, but none of them really took off. Again, I think it's probably mainly the shade, and secondarily just the soil quality. Over here I built out this little garden bed of just rocks from around the ranch and stuff. This yellow pear tomato, I didn't want to stake it. I wanted it just to kind of run wild, and it's kind of serving the purpose of for my chickens, so they kind of come over here, find the yellow ones that are deep down in there that we don't find, and pick them out. That's a yellow pear, if I didn't say that. This zucchini, there was 2 of them in here. They were looking great. And then squash bugs. I was doing a pretty good job of keeping up with them, but they finally hit and got rid of that plant on the left. Haven't really had any cases of them hitting any of my other plants. We were pretty diligent, had the girls out here all the time looking for them, killing eggs, killing squash bugs, and we stayed on top of them, but like I said, we missed it on this one. This soil really, I think, is not that great either, but next year again I'll throw some more compost in and we'll see what we do with it next year. But there's some more squash over there and there. This one's actually doing really well. Got 4 different varieties, and this one actually gets the most shade, oddly enough, but it gets a little bit of this ways west, so it gets some western sun, and then it actually gets some eastern sun underneath the canopy of this cedar tree. So I assumed this one would do the worst just because it gets the most shade, but it's not doing too shabby. So I got a yellow squash over here, yellow squash there, and I think the yellow squash there, and then this third one, or fourth one, is a lemon squash. First year growing those. As you can see, or you will be able to see, yeah, that's a little dude. So I'm assuming it's probably getting close to harvest, so I'll probably pick that tonight and give that a eaten here before too long. Over here are our Jerusalem artichokes. I think the last video in June, they were all about halfway up this fence there, so they've grown at least another 2 feet there. And actually this last one was a sunflower I planted. There's tons of sunflowers already blooming around here, but I didn't plant it till much later on after I saw it was kind of going to be a gap down there. But the rest of these are the Jerusalem artichokes and Claire's sunflower all the way down here. It looks like it's going to be one of those varieties that just stick out one main sunflower out of the center there. I don't see any coming out of the other nodes or anything. And my southwest L bed, as we call them. This one actually planted these squash, which I'm not sure if you can kind of tell how big they are, but they're anywhere from 12 to 18 inches tall. I planted these just about 20 days ago, and they're, about the same size as those ones over there that I planted, pretty much right after the last frost. But yeah, so these are early straighten out, prolific. This area in the last video was, I hadn't done anything with it yet. I made some more compost, got that rocking and rolling, threw that in here, and these guys are looking good. This bed actually doesn't get a whole lot of sun either. It gets shaded pretty well from this big locust tree most of the day, but it gets real early morning sun, and then it hits some mid-afternoon sun, and then it's shaded all through the afternoon. But again, it seems to be doing all right. We'll see once it starts to flower and fruit here in the next couple weeks if this bed can actually pop out some other stuff. I put in beets. Those weren't here last time, or maybe Lila had just planted them. Some carrots over there. The Brussels sprouts are going gangbusters. You can start to see some of the little sprouts forming in the... Dude, focus. Yeah, down in there. So it'll be late fall before they're fully developed, if they do. But Brussels sprouts are a cold hardy variety. So are kale. And then these are the cauliflower that look like crap. They aren't even close to forming a head, I don't think yet, but they're at least, I don't know, doing something. Tomatoes, they've grown a ton. Seems like with this cooler weather, there's some tomatoes that are setting and all that, but I'm not getting a whole lot to turn, so just some green guys in here every so often. I don't know if any of these varieties I would say are really stand out more than the other. There's a yellow pear in here as well, which just is producing like crazy, but all the other kind of beefsteak varieties, they're not beefsteaks themselves, but beefsteak type tomatoes are doing about so-so. Just trying to find a few here that lots of greenies. So yeah, this one here that's about 7 feet. So like I said, tons of growth, Just, I think the combination of all this moisture and the cooler days aren't conducive for a whole lot of fruit setting, but I don't know, maybe there's something else at play. These cucumbers didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, they're not done yet, but not nearly as good as I'd hoped they'd be. I think I've got 6 different varieties or 7 different varieties going up here, but as you can see, they really haven't started to even fill out this trellis hardly at all. Got some motorcycles coming by here, I guess. These beans are doing pretty good. These bush beans, they put out quite a few, and I planted them well before I planted the pole beans, but the pole beans definitely are producing a lot more than the bush beans, and they are right over here on this trellis. And this is how I was hoping the cucumbers would look too, you know, where they pretty much just fill this whole thing out. They've been up the top here for quite a while, and they start going other places too, like up and around, and sometimes they'll even head back down and wind around themselves. But yeah, this thing just put on mounds and mounds of beans. I mean, we every day come out here and can pick easily a good, you know, fat handful. Oh, and we got some grasshoppers that are getting fed to the chickens. One, that is. 1 second. Quick little distraction from the garden and watch some chicken fun. Here, chick, 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 chick. Here, chick, 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 chick. So hopefully, sometimes this Buff Orpington right here, she's pretty good at catching these guys, but I'll see if I can at least make it a fair game out of it. And here, watch out, Noe, and throw him down and see if she'll get him. Oh. Yeah, she got him. And that wasn't as fun as I thought it'd be. I couldn't stay on the grasshopper, but anyways, yeah, that's a good pastime of ours, is finding grasshoppers, throwing them to the chickens, and watching them chase them. It's pretty hilarious at times. But yeah, so let me go around the other way. Here's all the beans. So definitely doing great. Next year I'll probably grow them here. I'm actually going to build an arbor out and probably grow some more vining crops up and around that, and kind of make like I said, an arbor starting from the top there coming out, and the sides coming out, and around the side here. Eggplant, we've harvested a good 8 or 9 eggplant. We like this variety, Ichiban. It's pretty good. The Ghostbuster variety, we just harvested 2 and ate those today. They look, let me see what the tag looks like. They kind of look like a white little tomato, but they're pretty yummy. And we've got another variety over there. It's got some fruit on it, but you can't see. And here's more of these green beans. They send down a vine and wrap themselves all around the eggplant and everything. I pulled out, there was a big chard right here, and this marigold, once it got moved out, man, just took off. So I got marigold, calendula, some more calendula, peppers. These Fresnos have been just put on a pile, way more than we can eat. I need to find, they're a little bit spicier than a jalapeno. I need to find something to do with that, maybe make a jelly or something out of those. There's some Anaheim type tomatoes. I've got about 2 or 3 different types that are not just Anaheims, but similar to, like this one. I think this is I can't remember. I did different varieties than what you typically see or hear about, and now I can't think of what they are. These are supposed to be more like a bell pepper. They've done okay, but like most of my bell peppers, they don't do that great. Those are kind of okay size, and I'm not sure. I'm assuming this is grasshopper damage. It's always kind of on the west side, so at first I thought it was sun, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like this bed gets nearly enough scorching sun, plus this year hasn't been near as hot, so I don't know about that. okra. I think in the last video they were only about 4 to 6 inches tall. Now they are, probably a good 12 to 15 inches tall. We've harvested several okra. This burgundy variety put out okra way before the Clemson spineless. But yeah, they put out a gorgeous flower. This is my first year growing okra, but the flower's real pretty. This one went to flower, but it's dried up for the day. But yeah, here's a little okra going on there. This is about the size that you're supposed to harvest them. I've let them get to about 5-6 inches and they still taste pretty good to me. I don't know if I'm not that picky or whatever, but I like them. The herb bed, cilantro's done. Dill is drying now. Mint is going crazy. My 3-year-old pepper, 2-year-old pepper, and 1-year-old pepper that I started real early this year. These guys are doing good. And I think that might be the key for me, at least, on having good peppers. This guy's put on a ton of peppers, and you know, we started getting them as early as June. So once again, he'll come into the sunroom for the winter, survive, and keep making and developing his root system, and we'll see if I can keep him going, turn into a real big old tree or something. But yeah, so the basil, since the last video, is going crazy. Basil, parsley, chives, some nasturtium, rosemary, lavender is buried in there somewhere, and thyme. Missing oregano. All my oregano that I planted from seed this year did not survive, plus I had some other oregano in other places that I wasn't too worried, but I'll get some oregano in here next year and do some modifications. Planted some strawberries in this little dude, and they did not do that great. I picked all the strawberries off because I've heard that's what you need to do the first year, and to ensure that the plant sends all its energy into developing a root system. Anyways, they don't look near as well as I'd hope they would. I'll probably end up extending this on to there and adding more next year, and maybe trying a different variety, as well as this was about the time when I was running completely out of my own compost. I just started scavenging whatever I could to fill these up. So maybe it's the poor soil, maybe it's me, I don't know. My blueberry here still looks pretty weak. I still fail at blueberries, and I'm not sure what these girls are doing. You'll notice, well, you might not notice, but anyways, we used to have a white Americana chicken that everyone kept telling me was a rooster. I told them it was not a rooster. Well, I was wrong. It was a rooster. So I ended up, a buddy from work traded me that Americana hen, which we had an Americana hen before, but that was our one casualty. A fox actually snuck into our backyard and took her. But we had one other Americana, ended up being a rooster, traded the rooster for the hen, and so now my girls are happy. And this hen's actually just about a year old, and she's already laying. So I posted a picture the other day of an egg that we got, our first egg, and that was hers. My other girls haven't started laying yet, but they, with these rains, they love coming over here and digging in the mulch, and there's usually grubs down there, so they love the grubs. And here's my south garden, the tomato bed where I grew tomatoes last year. The top of here is about, let's say, 6.5 feet. Man, really shady. I'm gonna try to swing around. There we go. So anyway, 6.5 feet. These San Marzano tomatoes are doing pretty good, but again, like I said, they're not turning red. We've had some, but it seems like for the last 3 weeks it's been pretty sparse. Just lots of new growth. I think they think it's still early summer, so they're doing their growth stage rather than the heavy fruiting stage. Those two hybrids, the only two hybrids I have, got pummeled by grasshoppers and don't seem to be coming back. These are heirlooms, all San Marzanos, and then the majority of these are black Krim. Actually, I think I got a black cherry in there too. Yeah, growing a black cherry. It's got lots of little maters on it. Asparagus is quite a bit more dense than it was in the last video, and this one's going to seed. I'll probably save a lot of these seed. I don't really have any plans, but I'll save the seed and start these over winter and just get some other asparagus plants going. Half of these, or actually more than half of these, came from asparagus crowns that I bought. Some of the stuff down here on the end was from seed. It seems to be doing pretty well, but so did the stuff from the crowns does pretty well too. But I just thought, in case I want to start a new asparagus bed, I've got plenty of seeds that I'll maybe give that another shot, or make another one. This bed, almost done with the beets. We've harvested a lot of those. About the time we deplete this bed, the beets that you saw in that last other video should be getting close to ready, so we'll be good for the rest of the summer into early fall. These carrots, most of the seed died. This is Lila's planting, but the ones that did survive, looking pretty good. Ended up pulling the pak choi out of here, grew some lettuce, so hopefully we'll have a good fall crop of lettuce. And then these guys, I pulled all the pak choi out of there. Got tons of my own compost again, so re-amended this bed, and or actually I already planted turnips all throughout here, so pretty much anywhere there isn't a plant, there is a turnip. We'll see how that goes. There's a little okra that I just threw a seed in there just for the heck of it, and it came up in that middle. I didn't do anything with those two things this year. And then there's the rain bucket garden. I planted this early straight neck squash the same time as I planted those ones in that last bed, much later in the season, but I figured I still had plenty of time to maybe get a few squash out of it. This is one of the few eggplant that I actually got from seed. Most of the times I've tried eggplant from seed, they don't turn out well. I only had 2 or 3 plants. So I had 2 or 3 of my own plants, and I had to buy a couple from the nursery this year. But that one's called Ping Tang. It's actually really good, long, cylindrical variety, kind of like that Ichiban that was over there in the other bed. Carrot that is in seed. I wrapped this it's a paint strainer thing. Wrapped it around. I'm going to harvest the seed. So carrots are biennials. They don't produce a flower or seed in the first year, but I overwintered some of those, and then now this is their second year, so they put out their big flowers, and they're just loaded with seeds. So if you need carrot seed, I should only have about 100,000 to spare. Pepper, doing pretty good. I will overwinter this one into my sunroom. Leeks, doing so-so. Big cherry tomato that up until recently I just kind of let sprawl, but it was getting way out of hand, so I started running some lines up to the top of my shed here, so that tall one right there is about 7.5 feet. But yeah, I put on a ton early and ripened a ton early, and now it's done the same thing where it's just lots of green ones. You'll see some yellows and reds here and there, and actually today it was 93, and there's a lot more reds today than there has been in previous days. There's a black cherry that again I let sprawl and let the chickens make work of it. And my green beans. And then here on the back porch there's some of my onions. And then I got some flats of my cold fall crops. Got some red romaine lettuce, some chives and cilantro, broccoli, and some Chinese cabbage. I had a whole nother flat of them, but I left them out, and then it got completely rained on with a good 1.5 inch rain and washed everything out. So this tray here is I think arugula, lettuce, and spinach, some stuff that doesn't take near as long, and also cold hardy varieties. So that's pretty much it. August 2nd or 3rd, one of those days, 2014. Chickens, gardening, all sorts of fun stuff. Alright, we'll catch you later.